I'll stop 5 meters, Adrian.
I'll stop at 50. Control, Zach, you ready for control?
Should I wait for them? Or just read it over? This is an audio slate for dive H1927. UTC time is 10:21:00 mark. Audio check, audio check. Looks good. back row. How's it going tonight?
Good morning, or good evening, or good midnight. It's going well.
I'm enjoying these little fish or whatever they are. Yes, fish.
Do you know what the name of those fish are?
I don't. I somehow doubt they're in our guide, but I can look on the internet.
I can tell you that they don't look like lanternfish. Yeah, it should be home, right? Okay. Oh, right. Source PC. There we go. PC4. Okay. Go ahead. Sure. No problem on ROV1. Source cam. Great. And then got it. And it's the whole hold, right? Let's try this one. Is that it? Maybe it's winch alt. That's the one? Okay. Winch alt.
Good morning, or whatever time it is, to everyone out there watching. This is dive H9127. We're diving on an unnamed geo, just a bit to the west of the last seamount we dove on. It's an interesting feature. It's kind of a north-south elongated geo with a very flat, long surface. So it was most definitely subaerial, as in it was an island at some point, and then as it subsided, it would have been wave eroded down to a nice flat top as it went below the sea level. It should have a carbonate top, a cap on it, considering no matter what time it formed, anytime between the age of the crust at about 115 MA or a million years ago to the recent, it would have been in the basically low latitudes of the Pacific, and so it would have been in conditions to have carbonate reef. So it should be interesting. We're going quite deep, so we're going to have deep sea vision like this for a while as we go to about 3,200 meters depth. And then we'll traverse up a east-west trending ridge and end the dive on top of the geo. Should be around a 24-hour dive. We'll see how it goes.
Great introduction, Kevin. Can you, how's my volume? Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Jess, how's it sound now? Check, check. Okay. Audio check, audio check. Let's see what I can do over here.
So those fish we saw earlier, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think they were actually bristlemouths, which is a twilight zone fish that is probably the most abundant animal on Earth because it's found in every ocean basin in these deep twilight zone depths.
Bristlemouths. Oh, Michael, you got to tell SPL what P90X is.
Don't know what a P90X is?
Uh,
I also don't know what that is.
It's
I used to have
it's
that.
like one of those extreme workout stuff. It's like CrossFit, but at home. It's extreme because everything's with an X.
Everything's with an X, and the port bar breaks all your door frames.
Are you saying the other part of the workout is repairing the trim?
Definitely. Or smacking yourself in the face with the bands. I've done both.
Ooh.
So the sampling goals on this this dive were essentially the same as the last, mainly looking for basaltic rocks, especially at the deeper depths before we get into the carbonate kind of platform. We're going to be grabbing niskins along the way at different depth intervals, especially if we see high density communities. And then we have a long target list or wish list of species that different people on shore were like sampled, that were most cases observed in this area previously but not sampled, so I'd like to do some more genetic taxonomy on them. So, fingers crossed we see some good biology.
We're specifically looking for some corals and sponges, particularly ones that are underrepresented. And one thing we're looking for, if we can find it, is if we find an area where there are more corals around, where we're looking for evidence of predation, looking for sea stars actively predating upon corals to sample, with the goal being to look at what genes the corals and the sea stars are turning on and off, which is, we use a technique called transcriptomics to, in response to this predation event.
Sounds like a branch of economics. I like it.
So approximately how long would it take us to get to the bottom of this geo?
We are looking at approximately 90 minutes
Okay.
on this blue water tour.
Michael, you have a radio voice, right? Yeah. We can
Like a
radio talk show.
radio talk show. You guys want to do that? Thanks for tuning in on KOET. Nautilus late night dives with Nautilus Live.
That's pretty good.
And you got everyone outside. Hey, a long time watcher, first time messenger.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if we had like callers calling in and asking their questions that way.
Oh, yeah. That'd be golden. There should be like a call bank where we could just access. And we'll be right back. This is Cynthia calling in from Idaho.
I'm sure Dave and Ed could set something like that up. Or whether or not they ultimately is like, part of on mission. It's a matter of debate, but public engagement.
Yeah, that's all about. It's like that.
Definitely.
Such dives are made possible by viewers like you.
You have us ready to go. Yeah, you got this set up there, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just using I've done improv for like 7 years, so I'm like putting all these stuff to use. Let's go, let's go.
Didn't know you did improv. That's exciting.
Oh yeah, it's much fun. I think it's the only reason why I've gotten so far in life. But that would be nice, actually. Now that I think about it, to have like a
Radio talk show.
yeah, especially for these types of beginning portions of dives, beginning and ending portions.
Where it's less eventful, you would say.
Kind of think of it like a novel where, you know, they're, depending on the author, sometimes they take you a little longer to
Exactly.
kind of get you into the characters, get you understanding what the situation is.
Yeah, like in whatchamacallit? In Moby Dick, where Ishmael takes like 5 pages to talk about how disgruntled he is he's not at sea.
Sounds a little salty, then yeah.
Yeah, he goes, the author is like going off like, I get smarty with people and people start to sound dumb and I'm knocking people's hats off. It's time for me to go back to sea. It's like, what the heck, man? But I get it. I get it.
So when you come out to sea, and then it remedies itself, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
just want to knock the
exactly.
hat off of
I don't
someone out at sea.
need to knock hats off people.
Good thing I don't wear a hat.
Yeah. Some people just make it so like knock-offable, you know.
Because it has a big target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of character development, should we do introductions?
Ooh, nice segue.
Yes, we shall. So I'll go ahead and start. I am Onye, your Science Communication Fellow. I will be tuning into the questions that you all are sending in from home and kind of passing them along to our team. I look forward to seeing your questions.
Hi, I'm Kevin Conrad, Assistant Professor of Geology, focused on marine geology and geochemistry at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm also the director of the Nevada Isotope Geochronology Laboratory. Here to grab rocks and then date them and determine how old the seamount is.
I'm Meredith Everett. I am a biologist and geneticist at NOAA's Northwest Fisheries Science Center, where I work with the Deep Sea Coral Research and Technology Program on the taxonomy, genetics, and environmental DNA studies on deep sea corals and sponges.
Hey everyone, my name is Chanel Vidal, and I am currently a PhD student at Arizona State University, where I'm studying microbiology and Antarctic permafrost. And I'm out here as an ocean science intern doing some data logging, and hopefully I'll also answer some questions for you all. And if you have any questions about what it's like to go to school for a geology degree and then switch to biology and combine everything you can in science, please ask.
That's good.
Hey folks, sitting next to Chris, actually between Chris and Michael if we want to get really specific. My name's Jess, part of the ROV team, flying Herc. Yeah, happy to be here. Send us your questions, keep us awake.
Good evening, everyone. I am co-pilot to Jess over here. My name is Michael. I'll go ahead and try to help captivate all the attention for this approximately 9-minute show called Blue Water Watch. I am coming in from California as a grad student at UCLA, studying physics. And I'm also part of the ROV team here on the EV Nautilus.
That is a tough act to follow. Should have gone first. My name's Tim Dwyer. I'm sitting in the video engineering seat to Michael's left, and I'm responsible for keeping the video routed to the right people, the right places, and over the internet to you. Also making sure that we're recording all of the incredible imagery that we capture on these dives. So I hail from Friday Harbor, Washington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's everybody, right? Is that everybody? No one else here, just us. And let loose a little. Also, feel free to let us know whether or not we have any audio issues. And I had some messages earlier saying that there's some echoing coming in, making it hard to hear.
I'm guessing Chris was muted on SPO because I didn't hear his intro.
Yeah, that may have been true.
Oh, no.
Chris, would you like to reintroduce
Do I have to
yourself?
do it again now? Okay.
I think so. And we got time.
All right. Yeah, I'm Chris Krasnowski. I'm here as a navigator. I am also working on the Hercules high-resolution mapping system, which we'll be using over the next day or two. And shoreside, I do mapping research at University of Rhode Island.
All right.
So we know that Michael does improv. Does anybody else have some hobbies that they'd like to share when they're not?
I'd say
On
more.
board.
It's not a hobby. It's a way of life.
Okay.
Okay. It's a lifestyle, really.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
Don't look at me.
Yeah,
Don't look at me.
Right.
Are you part of those improv clubs, I guess? I don't know what to call them in
Oh, like
LA.
like the troops and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I am not. I got in improv when I was in high school, and at least in the LA, outside of LA area, there was a high school league, and it headquartered out with a it's called Comedy Sports, with a Z. That's how you know it's funny. And it's a nationwide thing, almost like a Second City out of Chicago. And so yeah, we did a high school league. So I did that for 4 years, and then I did it for 2 years after. There's a college league too. It's all just like learning how to get on stage and do things. So you can do the stuff that you see out in LA and the different troops and stuff and the different forms out there. There's like long form improv where you do like a whole 2-hour show. Yeah, some of them are pretty good, but I haven't done it in a long time. Yeah, I haven't done anything like that in a long time. I think the last time I did it was like 2016, 2017, and I was just coming out of the Navy, and I just like I need to do something fun. So I signed up with Second City outside in LA, which is different because they learn improv to re-improv to write sketches and stuff rather than just come up with stuff.
That's cool.
Just for the sake of coming up with it. That's not to say that it's not hard or fun or anything. It's just not my jam.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I miss being on stage.
It's kind of a stage.
The whole world's a stage. Yeah.
You can do a one-person improv on the pier.
a stand-up? It means some stand-up?
Maybe that's probably the more accurate term for it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't say anything. Didn't say?
Was someone saying something? No?
Uh-uh.
Oh. Well, I was saying maybe we should have like an improv night and just kind of like come up with a topic and then throw a couple people. I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind
like
of see what
improv
happens.
dive.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be a fun dive. I got a question. This is a quasi-joke, but a quasi-real question. How does the classification for different types of sea life, like, break down? I asked because, for an example, for bears, specifically like brown bears and stuff like that, and grizzly bears, you have like, for grizzly bears, it's like Urso horribilis ursa, which basically translates to bear, horrible bear. And then you have like I forgot which one it was, which is just Arcticus ursa, which is bear. So I was just wondering, like, how does that does it have the same theme in marine life classifications? How does that get broken down? If anyone knows, I don't know.
It can. So when you're thinking like Ursus horribilis ursus, the second Ursus is usually a subspecies. And so for like grizzly, it's actually Ursus arcticus horribilis now because they've changed it again because that's what taxonomists do. And so you could end up with a fish or a coral that had the subspecies designation too. I don't know any of any off the top of my head that have that at the moment, but you could conceivably in some fish or coral. Right now with corals, the names are changing on a pretty regular basis, often because, particularly for deep sea corals, the species names that we have are things that were come up with in the late 18th, early 19th century, which often have not been updated since then. And now that we have more modern tools and techniques and are getting things that aren't coming out of trawl nets, we get a better picture of what things actually are and what the taxonomic divisions actually are.
Okay.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
The ones that I took a course on mushrooms as part of a teacher education. Mycology. I was not eating mushrooms. But yeah, I took a mycology course recently, and a lot of those names have the discoverer or the person who actually did the taxonomic work like listed after it. So you'll have a mushroom genus and species with somebody's name after that is just sort of tagged on, and that's what they do in mycology, which is the study of mushrooms.
I need to do that. I don't know if I'm gonna have kids, so I gotta find a way for my name to live on.
That actually, the adding the official discoverer's name is the official way you are supposed to report pretty much all species, like within journals and things.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go get my glasses now, so I can start finding something on these dives.
That's the determining factor.
Yeah. I want there a whole like subcategories of Michaels.
Do you mind slowing for another hot second here? Subcategory of Michaels.
They're all the wacky ones. Coming down to like 16. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh. Yeah, I always thought that was interesting when they're naming things. Because it's like, is there, and going back to the case of the bear, it's like there's like, this is a quintessential bear. Like this is a bear, like, and I'm just thinking in my mind, is there like a quintessential coral type of thing. I don't know. I just find human naming things quite funny and interesting. The etymologies of stuff.
In geology, you're actually not allowed to name a new mineral after yourself. It's forbidden by the whatever standards and convention people.
Interesting.
Typically, it's named after the locality it was found, but if you can make a strong enough justification, you can name it after an influential person in the field, but you can't name it after yourself.
Oh, man.
So you just need a buddy who's a really good mineralogist to name it after you, and you'll name one after him.
Oh, that's clever. That's a good workaround.
It's a good workaround.
We good to come up? Or on the way back?
On the way back, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually very similar in species naming. It's frowned upon to name a species after yourself, but it is okay to name a species after a fellow colleague or a notable person, which is how we end up with the sponge Pamela Turneri.
Interesting. What about one's mother? Does that count? It's influential to some.
And by extension, eventually, when it breaks off in the evolutionary chain, it has to be you. To name it after your mother or something.
That's true.
Very interesting.
Mineral naming, though, what sort of conventions does that follow? Does it have to be Greek or Latin?
No. It has to end with "ite," typically. But other than that, it is like you'll have places named after localities. Like Albite is named after an Albite county, I believe. So things like that.
See, that makes a lot more sense because, where do you go to find albite? Well, you go to that county. Whereas Pamela Turneri could be anywhere.
It's Starocalyptus Pamela Turneri, and it's usually found off the coast of California. It's this bright yellow sponge.
Actually, I got Albite confused. I had it in my head because I remember it was different, but that's actually the only one or one of the few that's named in Latin after albus, which means white. So, I was wrong.
Another fun mineral fact, my professor in undergrad who I took optical mineralogy from is Paul Spry, and there's a mineral named after him called spryite. So that was cool.
Oh.
Kind of gave us all false ambitions to get a mineral named after ourselves when we realized actually how hard it is to do that.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, it got me. I love rocks now.
Yeah, you could totally be a rock star.
Oh my gosh.
But they don't tell you how hard it is.
Wow.
I'm here for the next 4 hours.
Is that what geology professors call themselves? Rock star? Kevin, are you a rock star?
No.
Oh.
All right,
No.
we're in the clear.
Didn't you hear him? It has to end in "ite."
Yeah.
Starite.
He's a Kevinite.
Okay.
Geologists pretend to hate it when you say that rocks to everything, but secretly we love all those terrible jokes, so.
Geology rocks.
We haven't gotten our official evening pun yet.
Ooh, I like that we have official evening puns.
I came prepared.
Oh.
I like it.
What happens when you throw a green rock into the Red Sea?
It sinks?
It gets wet.
Oh.
What happens when you throw a red rock into the Black Sea? It sinks to the bottom.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
All right, I'm glad my brain was in the right place with that.
Wow. That's top tier.
These are like the jokes you get off popsicle sticks as a child.
Yeah.
One of my favorite minerals that I learned about while taking mineralogy in undergrad was called rhodochrosite, and it's actually kind of relevant to what we're doing. It's a manganese carbonate, and it has this beautiful pink color, and like the crystal forms in these cubes and also these like circular patterns. I don't know, it's just really gorgeous. I would urge you all to look it up.
Rhodochrosite?
Yep.
Like CHRO?
Yep. RHODOCHROSITE. One of my favorite minerals.
As a small child, my second favorite part of most natural history museums was the Hall of Minerals,
Oh, yeah.
where you could go see them all on display.
Did anybody have a rock collection as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I still do.
So when I was younger, me and my best friend, who lived right next door to me, we went to, in California, we have Knott's Berry Farm. I forget what it is everywhere else. That's where they have like the Charlie Brown stuff, like the theme park with the Charlie Browns and Peanuts gang. Anyway, they have like a little rock. They have an entire store dedicated to minerals and different types of rocks and gemstones and stuff. And they'll cut open a rock in you, like that's been like that's crystallized on the inside and stuff like that.
Like a geode?
Yeah, geode. There you go.
Okay.
I couldn't think of the name. Thank you. Yeah, basically they have a bunch of geodes and they'll crack open, and you pay to crack it open. And the first one we got, like they're like, oh, sometimes if you look at it, like I don't know if this is true or not. I'm not a geologist or nothing. They're like, sometimes the more round it is, sometimes you're more likely to get something really, really good and interesting. And then they slice it open, and it's like perfect. It's perfectly flat. It's a mud rock. It's just. It was like a solid softball. It was like the roundest one on there. It was like on a pedestal. The guy felt so bad because me and my best friend were so excited. It's like, look what we found. Let's get this one. My grandfather bought it, and then it is like it turned out such a dud. So the guy felt bad, so he gave us a different one. So we went out and we moseyed over. We picked up another one, and he cut it in half, and yeah, it was cool. It was good. It was like for some reason the way it broke, the way when you cut it in half with the water jet cutter, it wound up looking like a clamshell instead of like two halves of a baseball or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And because it was so funny that we didn't get a proper geode thing, we got like a little mud rock thing. I don't know what happened to the actual geode we had. We just kept the two halves of the mud rock. It's like sitting on my shelf. He has the other half. It's just like sitting there.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Oh, it was so funny. I'll pick a funny thing over an expensive thing. That's not true. That's not true. It's a case-by-case basis. But yeah. That's my funny rock story. That's like our little collections. Oh, and also my friend, his entire yard was rocks. They didn't have any grass or nothing, which is pretty good because, you know, we're in California and we're always in a drought.
That's how it is in Arizona too. Walks along the street take me a while. Sometimes I'll find a cool rock and I'm like, oh, gotta look at all of them. So many rocks everywhere. It's very exciting.
Ironically, I did not have a rock collection as a kid, and I don't as an adult either.
Wow.
I don't take my work home with me.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was just about to say, no one takes his work home. I feel like that's like a secret, like a no one talks about. I feel like everyone will stop and pick up a cool rock.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of those things that just goes by unsaid. Like everyone's down for bowling. No one goes around just like brags about bowling all the time. I feel like the same way about like just picking up rocks. Same thing with boxes. Everyone has like, oh, I'm gonna keep this. This is a good box. Boxes, bowling, and rocks. That's a commonality that we share as humans.
You have a box, and also cats, I think,
Oh,
too,
cats
right?
do the same thing too.
My cat is broken. She will not get in a box. No one knows why.
Your cat is broken. I don't guess any fixing that one, is there? No.
I mean, you need the box for all the cool rocks you find, right? So
Exactly.
I don't know how we bowling into that, but
Well, because I don't know. It just popped in my head.
yeah.
You know what I wish that we had more of nowadays? Are hat boxes. I see, you know, when you watch those old-timey movies and all, they have like really sturdy, nice-looking boxes for hats.
Oh yeah.
Kind of cool to have those again, you know, store all your photographs in it,
Oh,
all your
those-
rocks,
yeah,
apparently, bowling balls.
I thought you
whatever.
meant like for your hats. I'm like, you can't do that. I'll be knocking them off.
Full circle. All right. Good job.
In the industry, that's called a callback. That's a
I was like, here comes the improv out of you.
it's a huzzah, huzzah. Waka waka. But yeah, I know what you mean. I grew up with like those sugar cookie tins. I keep them everywhere. The hat box
Those
would
are
be nice. They're sturdy.
the sugar cookie tins are perfect for the time capsules. You know, when you make the time capsules, it's always in a sugar cookie tin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of time capsules. I think me and my friend, the same friend, we made a time capsule in my grandparents' yard. And my grandparents eventually sold the house while I was away.
See,
And I didn't know about it.
see to take it up some.
So there's new people there. But the catch is they've cemented the entire backyard.
No.
So I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night 10 years from now to some weirdo jackhammer. It's like, I forgot something here. It's just going to be a tin of rocks, really.
As long as it's a tin, not a box.
And a bowling ball.
I mean, bowling balls are kind of like rocks.
And if you crack it in half, it's kind of like a mud rock. I
Yeah,
think, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So speaking of cutting rocks in half, I didn't see, did any of the samples that came up on our last dive meet the diamond saw?
Just one. The boat was kind of rolling too much, and it was spraying kind of manganese water all over the deck, so I'm going to cut them later now that we have the ROVs down and the boat's a little more stable. But the first one I cut open was a nice basalt. It was an olivine basalt. All the olivine was recrystallized to a clay called iddingite. So it's what we want to see, so I'm excited for the rest of them.
Olivine is that kind of green rock?
Yeah, it's the green crystals, although they only last about a couple million years in seawater before they turn into this orange clay. They don't like being at the surface, and they definitely don't like being on the surface in water.
I'll have to come by and take a look. That's fascinating, that the rock turns to clay. you know.
Was it ever a rock?
Yeah, you can see the gradations where the outer edges of the rock are going to be all different colors because they're slowly oxidizing and turning into clays, and then it's more preserved in the center of the rock.
Riddle me this. When does something qualify as a rock?
Rock is an aggregate of minerals, so if you have minerals together, it's a rock.
Like it doesn't, so like
Now you may consider something...
structural stability doesn't really matter? Or?
Yeah, it has to be lithified to the point where it's not loose grains.
Okay.
Yeah, so lithified clusters of minerals.
Interesting.
So where does mudstone fall on this?
If it is a stone, then it is a rock, yes. If it's just mud, where it's, not holding together at all, and you can't saw it in half or cut it in half, and disappoint a child, then it's not a mudstone.
It's one of the, okay, so all stones are rocks, but not all rocks are stones.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to...
Stone's just, it's actually technically a paving term, like a construction term for a rock.
Okay, see now, I did not know that.
So something like concrete.
Yeah, it's an anthropogenic rock, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a carbonate, mostly.
Having flashbacks to walks with my dad as a child where he would hand you a rock and give you the pop quiz. Igneous, metamorphic, or sedimentary.
Oh, man.
Sounds proper.
Sounds proper.
And it produced a bright young scientist, so it worked.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not a geologist.
Yeah. Oh, good. That was a good hour. That was solid.
Keep it coming.
I learned quite a bit.
We're almost halfway.
So are there other crystals that would form in a lava flow that you might expect to find when you cut open the salt?
Yeah. Yeah, all the crystals I'm looking for and want are the ones that formed initially in the lava flow.
Okay.
Because that records the time of eruption. So ideally I can find things like feldspars. Amphiboles are my favorite mineral. They're usually good because they have potassium. I can date clinopyroxenes, which is another type of fancy mineral. Even though it doesn't technically have potassium in the crystal structure, it traps little bits of melt along grain boundaries, and our instruments are kind of sensitive enough to measure that little bits of trapped melt just on the boundaries and defects of a crystal. But in all, I'm looking for minerals that stand up really well to low temperature seawater alteration. So things that just stand the test of time, which not all minerals do. And that's one of the reasons I try to grab as many rocks as I can, because it's a kind of a gamble which ones will actually have the minerals I want. So the more you grab, the higher chances you are to get something you can use and work with. And since everything is so densely coated in ferromanganese, you can't tell what it is until you cut it open.
Sounds like a horror story sometimes. You can't tell what it is until you cut it open.
I lived there.
For the rocks, right?
I lived that, yeah.
Have you ever seen the Japanese ROV that has a saw for an arm?
No.
There's one, they had a rock saw they attached to the arm so they can cut off rocks.
Oh, that is very metal. It's cool. What was the name of it? Was it like
I'm looking it up right now.
Edward Scissorhands type? Edward Sawhands.
It's like a Mad Max type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like Macross, or right. One of the classics.
That reminded me of Twisted Metal. I don't know why.
In the 90s, the University of Washington built a giant chainsaw that they sent down with an ROV to saw off and bring back to the surface an entire hydrothermal vent column.
Cool.
Which they did. It's
Oh,
in
yeah.
the Museum of Natural History.
That'd be the coolest collection ever.
That's gnarly. That's, that's just straight up gnarly.
If you ever have a chance, go to Manhattan. You can go check it out. It's like 6 feet tall.
We need to make some modifications.
Someone want to write a grant and, you know, well, we can be the executioners on that.
I'm going to go to Home Depot. We can figure this out. Just attach it to the motors. Yes. Or to thrusters, I guess.
You're really thinking about it.
I already got a plan in my head.
So Kevin, do you have some super fancy piece of equipment with either an acronym or a name that's hard to pronounce that allows you to you know, identify the trace minerals on the faults and the crystals that you're finding?
To identify the minerals, I usually just use petrographic thin sections, which is where we just take a chunk of the rock, glue it to a microscope slide, and we polish it down to it's only 30 microns thick. And then we can put different types of light through it, and it will reflect and refract differently depending on the type of minerals. It's the standard. It's been used, you know, centuries now. To actually measure the isotopes in my lab, I have a NGX multi-collector noble gas mass spectrometer. And
That's what I was looking for. Right.
I can put on the longer name if you want, but yeah. And that's what we use to actually measure, trace tiny bits of argon isotopes. Hey Mike, front move. Bring this over. Japanese ROV that's got that rock star on.
That's gnarly. That is totally wicked.
What's the name of the ROV?
There's gotta be something rad. If it's something like Earl, I'm gonna be mad.
Earl.
We're talking the ROV with the buzzsaw blade, right?
Bone saw is ready.
Has its own character mode.
Yeah. That's for Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. OG Spider-Man. Yeah, get some gauge numbers.
Roger, roger.
Keep thinking of Star Wars every time you see Roger, Roger.
So I was just thinking that with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh, it's Spider-Man?
From Spider-Man, yeah.
If y'all want to see another gnarly way that basalt can form, there's this thing called columnar jointing rose, and it is basically like columnar jointing that happens in a circle, going from like one place in the middle. If you look it up, you'll see a picture of it. There's one that I saw in Tenerife, and it was like 32 feet across, and it looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah, if you're ever in eastern Washington, you can see it with some of the Columbia River basalts, where you have this 30, 40-foot circle of columns coming out of the center. It's really cool.
It's one of the best rock climbing spots in the state, Frenchman Coulee. You can go climb those columns.
Oh.
Yeah, those are some of the, I guess, maybe, I just saw the picture you pulled up, iconic destinations in like Iceland or Ireland, I guess.
Fortress of Solitude looking things.
Yeah, right.
There's also
Hexagons.
a really nice display of them if you ever backpack the Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier, the South Puyallup River campground. There's a whole wall that's columnar basalt.
Do you say basalt? Okay, never mind. Yeah. Yeah.
So, how does this form? Does it form in the ocean?
Yeah, actually the best columnar basalts you can find typically are in the oceans.
Really?
Yeah, it's a cooling phenomenon when you have really thick lava flows, where the top starts to cool and it will contract into kind of these hexagonal shapes, and then that contraction will propagate all the way down and form like a column.
That's so interesting.
Do you know why it forms in the rose pattern?
Why it forms?
Yeah, like how does that happen?
What do you mean by the rose? Let's see this.
I'll show you.
Example. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that I saw.
Oh yeah.
How does that happen?
My only guess is that kind of is like a lava flow that kind of folded over itself, so it cooled like circularly down. So it wasn't just like straight down, it was kind of on an angle.
Oh. So cool.
Yeah.
Any questions come in?
We don't have any questions. But we have a trivia question, actually, with the answer. I have the answer. So I'll ask it to you all. What percentage of the world's active volcanoes are in the Pacific Ocean? Does anyone know?
Say that again.
What percentage of the world's active volcanoes are in the Pacific Ocean?
Isn't it something like 80%?
Oh, I was going to say 80.
Well, I mean,
83.
I'm gonna guess 81. No, okay, that's not. Price is Right rules don't apply here.
there's the whole Mid-Atlantic Ridge, though, right? Is that active volcanism, or is it just
That's a good point.
seafloor, active volcanoes or seafloor spreading?
I'm gonna change my answer. 50%.
So, the
51.
answer is 75%.
75%.
Yeah, so they said 75% of total still active world's volcanoes can be found exactly in the Pacific Ocean area. The Ring of Fire is a famous region with hundreds of volcanoes.
So the Ring of Fire is technically not in the Pacific
Right,
Ocean.
that's what I was saying.
It surrounds it, yeah.
Is it bad that
So
I
I
only
guess
know?
the general region.
Yeah.
I only know the Ring of Fire from Finding Nemo. I didn't realize it was an actual thing. This is why I studied engineering.
Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire. I gotta watch that again.
The Johnny Cash Ring of Fire.
Yeah, I was
Right.
thinking. I was like,
yeah.
something money. Why can't I think of Johnny Cash's name? Something money. Johnny Money though sounds like a gambler you would find. Just at a slot machine. That's a very interesting piece of trivia.
Yeah, I'm gonna want some more parameters on that before I think I repeat that one. Are we talking volcanism? Are we, like, how do we define this? Like the number of volcanoes as a percentage of the whole, or are we talking like, I don't know, amount of stuff ejected?
That's a good point.
What are we classifying as volcano?
Alright. I think we cleared it.
I need to speed up because I'm below you.
So the seamount that we're diving on today is called a GEO. That's how it's pronounced, but it's spelled G-U-Y-O-T.
Yeah, it's French, so you don't pronounce certain letters.
Okay.
Oh. But it was like a year. Everyone is just like, oh, yeah. What does that mean?
Does it translate, or is it named after somebody?
I think it's named after someone. Let me look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're named after the 19th century geographer Arnold Henry Guyot.
Okay.
But it was named by Harry Hess, who's a famous marine geologist from the 1940s. He was the one who kind of pioneered using Navy technology to map the seafloor instead of looking for submarines.
Oh, so the multi-beam that we're using right now is sort of a direct sort of descendant, I guess, technological descendant of what Harry S. used in the 40s?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So it started off as a sonar for submarines and developed in World War II, and then used to map the seafloor thereafter.
So this seamount has a flat top. Do we know anything about its formation, especially vis-a-vis the one that unnamed seamount number 3 where we were yesterday?
Yeah, unknown seamount 3
Today.
had a rugged, kind of pointy top, like you would expect from a volcano, while this one is flat. So when you have a really large flat top, it's usually indicative that it was an island at some point. And then as it kind of stopped being active, it sinks into the lithosphere. It sinks into the mantle, essentially, the crust, and it subsides. And it starts getting lower and lower relative to sea level, and to the point where waves just kind of flatten it, and then eventually it's below sea level. In some cases, like Johnston Atoll, the coral can keep building on itself for long periods of time until it can stay above sea level or at sea level. In this case, this one wasn't able to keep up for whatever reason. There's also a much potentially older volcano. If it's around 100 million years, the reef-building organisms were different back then. Stony corals weren't the primary reef builders in the Cretaceous. It was mollusks, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Crinoids, which we see they're kind of rare. We only see a few different types of those sea lilies down there. They were, during the Paleozoic, the primary reef builders, and they were drastically more diverse and widespread than they are today. They kind of got hit by a couple of extinction events and never recovered fully. Now they're kind of rare.
I've seen some of the big fossils of them, or large, I guess large specimens of them. They're, I don't know, almost size of a table.
Yeah, they're pretty dramatic. As far as I can tell, though, I believe they're almost all stalked. But yeah, they come in a variety of different sizes and shapes, and they're very cool looking.
So would it be possible to determine essentially at what point in time this geo went underwater forever, or I guess basically when was the last time it was out of the water? The surface of it, the top of it was out of the water.
Yeah, it's difficult to. There's no currently real direct way of dating that. You can kind of, if you get the age of the seamount and the age of the crust, you can kind of model how long it would have taken a typical, seamount to do that. But you can't really direct date when it went below the water. The easiest way to do that, I guess you can take a sediment core. If you core the seamount, you can kind of get the age at which sediments start depositing on top, marine sediments. And that would be the age it's under the water.
This is my first time seeing a geo. I'm pretty excited, especially now that I know how to pronounce it correctly. I teach an oceanography class and I've been mispronouncing it for the entire semester. I apologize to my Friday Harbor High School students.
I've only read it in books.
Never actually seen one. Right?
So last summer, I was part of a NOAA expedition. I was on shore, but we were looking in the corner seamounts in the Atlantic, and we were looking at geos and in the area. And some of the geotops, you had drowned beach features, where you can still kind of make out the shoreline and the beaches, and like where the reef breaks. When you're kind of snorkeling, you can kind of see the reef break, where the waves break. You can still see all those features on top of those geos. And most likely what happened was it was just a sudden sea level rise event, where they just drowned it out to the point where it wasn't even wave eroded down. It was just preserved the beach. It's quite cool.
Yeah, wow, I mean, sounds catastrophic actually, and very cool.
Yeah.
For those keeping track or curious or still tuning in, it's about approximately another 30 minutes before we hit bottom.
Woo.
Give you that nice blue ocean view. Thought there would be a lot more like ctenophores and stuff.
Now we're in an oligotrophic zone. So out here in the Central Pacific, there's very little nutrients out in the water column, so you don't get the big plankton blooms and things that you would get that would support a lot more midwater life. There is stuff here, but it'll be microscopic, but much less than you'd see in the coastal zones. That's why we get this nice long distance blue water view.
That whops. I mean, yeah. Crystal clear.
I mean, it's great once we get on the bottom because you're not doing, you know, a mud dive where your visibility is 8 feet. And
Yeah, or when you pick up a sample, it doesn't all just disappear into a dust storm.
I like all these telltales. Since we lost I think one time we lost like the video just froze. And now there's just like telltales everywhere.
If the wind's rolling around wasn't enough.
Never again. Oh wow. Okay. Let's see. What are some other interesting questions? I feel like I had like a whole laundry list of captivating inquiries. Should have written it down. Should have written it down.
I had one. It's about geos. Actually, or well, first of all, is it atoll or atoll? What's the correct pronunciation there? Because I'm pretty sure I've been pronouncing that as well.
I always say atoll, but I'm often wrong on many things, so I have no idea if that's correct.
I would say atoll.
It's probably an aunt thing.
Because of the double L requires the O, so the atoll.
I think there's a silent Q. We're not being any help, are we?
No.
So sorry.
It sounds like we're coming up with 6 different pronunciations of the same 5-letter word.
It's atoll.
Yeah, there's only one T, so it should be atoll.
It could be
atoll.
Spanish. Atoll.
That sounds more Y-ish than a toy.
The paper that you just pulled up reminded me that, wasn't it Charles Darwin who actually put together the first hypothesis as to, or I guess the hypothesis as to how these islands formed? Or does
Wouldn't
he
be
just get the credit
surprised.
for it?
Yeah. I don't know who did the first atoll. That's a good question.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's atoll.
Charles Darwin definitely coined the term. Hmm.
5 years at sea, seasick most of the time. Basically, I guess you just sit around thinking about life a lot. when
Yep.
you're-
Yeah.
Why? Why? Sometimes how?
I think Charles Darwin has one of my favorite quotes in one of his journals, which is, "I am very poorly today and very stupid, and I hate everybody and I hate everything." I think about that often in the sciences.
Hopefully today's not that day.
No, today's a great day.
But my favorite Darwin quote, and we had this on the wall of the lab where I used to work, which did a lot of work with barnacles and crabs. But he spent 6 years developing, just basically developing evidence for evolution using barnacles was one of his test species. And he's at the end of it, he said something like, "I hate a barnacle as no man ever did, not even a sailor on a slow-moving ship." That was on the wall in our lab. Yeah.
I like it.
How's everyone doing so far? It's almost 2 hours in on our Blue Water Watch. Here on Late Night KOET.
We just really need like a big squid or something to just come break it up a little.
Slap us awake a little bit.
Some biology.
Oh, there is biology
Oh,
right
there you go, right there. Ask and
Collapsed
you shall
starvation
receive.
houses only sort of count.
Yeah.
Another 20 minutes, guys.
What's the typical descent rate?
Right now. Right about where we're going. 27 to 30
Okay.
uh,
Meters per minute?
meters per minute, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for the pilots here. We have this winch view up here in the van, which we're not broadcasting out, but we can see it as we sit here. And I see these two dangling washers in front of the winch. Is that just to tell that the image isn't frozen, or to see how much the ship is moving, or?
That is 100% correct. I think it was last year. I think it could have been the year before, but the image just like all the winch videos just froze, and no one knew. We didn't notice because it's there's not a lot of moving parts other than the drum, but even then, if it can get lost in the corner of your eye, and we just lost video because it was frozen. But now that we have these dangling washers, we have a lot of telltales. Because they have to move as the boat moves. So
I just put it up on the satellite, channel 3, if anybody's interested in watching the washer.
yeah, I just think it's funny. I had mentioned it a little bit ago about the washers. It's like lose a video once, and then like you get because there's two here, and there's like two around the corner in the back. They're everywhere now. I'm surprised we didn't put it like a curtain of beads coming in.
Curtain of beads.
I like the quad view because it's like watching 3 different walls dry.
Yeah, you got to find out which one dries faster. Fun fact: it's always the one facing the sun.
I mean, as I'm doing my training here for being in the video chair, there's a long list of checklists, and one of them is something like verify winch washers. And I was thinking it was like windshield wipers, but no, it's a metal washer on a string.
Nothing but the fanciest tech for you.
An elegant solution.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna be gone for more than an hour, and we never saw her again. But yes, it's a telltale for our peace of mind. Am I on SPO? Yeah, okay. How long have people here been doing / been going to sea? Like, I think I've been going to sea for most of my adult life now.
Yeah, you were in the Navy.
Yeah. So that's like what? How old am I? 34? It's like 10, 12 years now.
I don't know. I've been coming out on like oceanographic ships for, I don't know, since 2015. And before that, I mean, I was working as a sailboat captain and stuff since 2010. So.
A sailboat captain?
Yeah.
For why?
'Cause I finished undergrad and decided that I want to do something else for a while. So, yeah.
Huh, interesting.
What kind of license do you have?
50-ton near coastal.
Oh my goodness.
That's serious license.
Yeah, it's all right.
I just got my Quest.
Your what?
A little Quest, a sailboat.
Oh, okay.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Oh, like a little 1-2 person sailboat. That's exhausting.
I got a Hobie Tiger with one of my friends back in Rhode Island, and that thing is just like, whew. Has, with the spinnaker and everything, has like 400 square feet of sail area, which is like as much as like a 30-foot monohull.
Oh, wow.
And it weighs 300 pounds. So it's a workout. It'll do about 18 knots, 18, 19 knots, and like.
Oh, wow. So that's quite a bit of sea time.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've been sailing since, or at least on oceanographic vessels, since 2013.
2013?
Yeah, and then prior to that, I hated the ocean, because my only experience growing up, I was from New York City. And every now and then my uncle would take me out to like a charter boat, and we would just sit in the high tide bouncing up and down. And I always thought I got super seasick, but I think it was more that it was just squid guts and fish guts everywhere. And so the boat reeked, and I was just bouncing up and down, so it was always miserable.
It's like, I get why people are salty.
Yep, exactly.
I started going to sea as an undergraduate. I have my bachelor's degree in oceanography from the University of Washington, and there was a program where students could volunteer for some of the surveys that they did just within Puget Sound and out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca, so I started with that. And then took quite a few years off from going to sea, because as a geneticist, you do most of your work in the lab. And when you become a postdoc, it becomes much cheaper to send graduate students to send your samples back to you. And I also did my postdoc initially in salmon before I moved over to coral. But once I started working with deep sea corals, I started going to sea again, and now I go out a couple times a year.
Oh, great, great. Oh yeah, we're going to slow down for a second real quick. As we come across the, for the winch, slow it down. Do you now, like, is it one of those things, is it the itch? Is it like, oh man, now I can't not be at sea? Is that how it is for most people?
I'm happy to send my grad students.
I could not.
I like going out a couple times a year.
Okay, that's interesting.
I get the itch to go out to sea after like 2 months on land.
Yeah.
Like, all right, take me back out.
It's like on vacation, you know what I mean? You're like, oh man, I just want to go on vacation, and you're there on vacation for like 3 weeks to a month, and you're like, I'm over it.
Exactly. I feel like there's a lot of like meditation, like out here you're just looking at the waves all the time, and it makes you reflect on your own life and your own self. And
sometimes I wish, I know why they don't do it here. It's a very small boat, and I know why, but sometimes I would just wish the lights would be off. That's one thing I really appreciated about when I was in the Navy, because we don't, the lights are off at night.
Yeah, the first time I sailed was on a dredging vessel, and then at night all the lights were shut off, And so every night I would just lay out there and stare at the sky. It was mid-Pacific, August. It was meteor shower season. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
That's when I think that's when I was in the Gulf, and then there was that night. No, it was no moon, so it was like dark. And then I don't think I had experienced such dark. And then just looking over the side of the water and like seeing all the bioluminescence that comes up in the wake. It was one of those things where like, oh, I get it. I see why people were superstitious. These are ghosts.
Yeah.
These are spirits. But yeah, that's one of the moments I was just like, oh, I got to keep doing this. Yep, right then and there, I'm like, oh, this is happening. It's a very interesting feeling to be out at sea with in the middle of the night like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point where other people can tell that I need to get out to sea. It's like, you need to go.
Are you
That's when
punching
you're
hats?
knocking hats off,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That was one of the things coming here. I wasn't sure, because I just started grad school and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And then because of my fellowship, and I was like, how does this work? And no one else in my family, or I don't know anybody really that's gone to grad school that kind of knows the logistics of things. And then I was like, I asked, and then like, we'll get back to you. I'm like, okay. And I waited, and I was like, I'm going. I'm signing up. I cannot not. So ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And if you're listening out there, UCLA, this is my asking for forgiveness. Yeah.
My first time on a research vessel was aboard Nautilus in 2015.
Well, 2015.
But when I was in college, I sailed schooners in the summertime. As a deckhand, though, I did not have the responsibility of being a captain.
I just found it weird. I was never into like introduced to anything growing up. Like I didn't do anything out to sea other than the beach until I got into the Navy. But my sister, she's like quite a deal younger than I. Apparently, there's this thing called like concrete canoeing.
Concrete?
Canoeing. Concrete canoeing.
I didn't know those two words went together.
I didn't know either. I mean, but it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense really, but I mean, it's feasible. We have boats made out of metal. You know.
Yeah.
That's true.
For a while, it was a thing to make custom cruising sailboats and stuff out of concrete.
What?
Ferro
It's like
cement.
something, yeah, ferro cement. It's like I don't know, it's a reasonably cost-effective and easy way to build a one-off boat. So, and the 70s and 80s, a lot of those came out, and they're still around because they're made of concrete.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a sort of a response to the oil embargoes of the 1970s.
Oh,
Oh, is that what it was all about?
Yeah, they were
All
looking for. They were looking, and that's when sailboats started being plywood cord,
Right.
or the fiberglass ones.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Before that, they were just layers on layers on layers of fiberglass.
So it started off as like a thing, it's like Jello. Like how for a while in our history, everything was just made of Jello. Everything's gelatin.
When was that?
Huh?
When was that?
Oh, like during the 50s or something?
Oh, I
When
see.
like gelatin got made up for like as a consumer good for like the general public after a while. I mean, it was cheap enough to make it, so it wasn't just for like the
Fancy.
fancy people. then
Fancy
everything
one.
was made out of gel. Everything had gelatin in it. It's weird.
Concrete still surprises me though because it changes its density with moisture and humidity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be like highly, like really well encapsulated to not change its density, or else you have a sinking ship, I would imagine.
I had something. Oh, yeah. What's also very like I find interesting is the what is it? What is it? What is it? The self-repairing concrete. Yeah, there's something about it where like I guess like it repairs itself in the rain. Like if it starts cracking, something about the water filling in, and then I don't know. I would have to look it up.
Well, that's cool.
It's one of those interesting, new, coming, emerging technology things that are making its way. That way you don't have to spend so much money trying to repair potholes and stuff like that. Well, as much.
It means that perhaps the deserts only get their roads and concrete repaired once every year or so.
But yeah, that's that. So versatile. Another, I had it. It's gone. I'm sorry, guys. What? Anyone have like a notable sea story? Like one of their favorites? Things that's happened to them whilst out at sea? I already told mine. I took one of mine already.
The bioluminescence was one of the more incredible things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah, you know, sailing through. I taught aboard a high school semester at sea for a year, and yeah, sailing out of Rockland, Maine, one September, like there was just a large amount of phytoplankton in the water, and as the ship landed, as the bow dropped, it cut through the waves, like it would just like throw out this glow that was, you could read by it. It was so intense. I've never seen anything like that before or since.
It's really trippy, especially on a new moon. If you're at Waikiki, you can do it. I mean, I'm sure it's around somewhere else, but Waikiki, sometimes on the breaks, if it's really dark enough, you can, when it breaks, you just see the waves of bioluminescence coming out.
That's so
It's really
cool.
nice, really nice. For nighttime, nighttime beach swims, you know.
Just right on the reef there, yeah.
Yeah.
I was out to sea for the Leonid meteor shower one year.
Oh,
What?
cool.
On a ship that had a top deck that you could go to at night where they had all the lights out. You're able to just go up and lay on the deck and look up at the sky and watch the meteor shower.
I'm so jelly. That sounds amazing.
Besides almost exactly the same bioluminescent story that got me into going to sea, with seeing that for the first time, I sailed on board the Joydes Resolution, which spent a month and a half drawing the same core. And so the ship was in the Philippine Sea, south of Japan, so really high productivity waters. And it became a reef after like a month, to the point where we had squids going around it, then we had tunas and giant schools of tuna, and then at sundown every night you see the water just get super choppy as feeding starts, and it was interesting to see just so many different, basically, food webs forming around the ship that's just sitting in the same spot for a month and a half.
Oh, wow.
That's really interesting.
That's really cool.
So back row, as we start to approach bottom in about 10 minutes or so, do we want to go straight to waypoint 2, or do you want to hit waypoint 1? Because we're pretty close to it, but just want to know so I know which way to turn my head.
No, we can just start working towards waypoint 2. Yeah,
Okay.
waypoint 1 is just kind of roughly that area, so that's fine.
Roger that.
Roger,
What
Roger.
would be that bearing there?
Bearing 115.
Roger, 115.
I feel like every sea story is a magical one.
Or a horrifying one.
But magical
come in
nonetheless.
they come in both forms, can confirm.
Magical nonetheless. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's neutral. And one thing I do miss, I miss choppiness. I mean, sometimes it's overkill, but I miss choppy waves. It's always fun. I know a lot of people don't like that sometimes. Can you slow it down?
I'll catch up to you. Nah, not intentionally.
All right. All right. We're coming up at the end of this blue water watch here on Nautilus Lab.
You guys did very good on, keeping the radio vibes good.
Tune in 23 hours for another blue water watch as we ascend from the depths.
Sounds very ominous.
And we do. You know, like we can get some drama music. We can do everything. Make a whole proper radio play.
Like we need the little horn.
Yeah.
For like a good sample.
This is a soundboard.
Morning radio. Yeah, right.
Or we could just become watch a couple videos, become Foley artists. You know what I mean? And just, I don't know why, but you start making sound effects for no reason. Oh, let's go this way. I was like, well, the door creaks as we pass through.
Subsea doors.
The veil of the unknown.
So how come the ascent rate is different than the descent rate?
Why is it?
Yeah. Why do you ascend more slowly than you descend? I know that sounds like an interesting physics question. We're like, well, because descending is down, Tim. And that's faster. But yeah, I mean.
That's exactly why.
Okay.
That's exactly why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's harder to thrust up.
Oh.
And then we're usually I try to match it whatever Herc can do, right?
Okay.
And depending on the whatever we pick up, it could be heavier than when we went in. Even though we do we do let go of some rods and plates or whatever. Sometimes that's just not enough, so we come up heavier in the water than we did going in. And there's not a lot of super thrusts going on these thrusters here. So
Yeah, there's also like a bunch of thruster wash that when we're thrusting to come up, we're actually impeded by the starboard bow box. So it's like a big drag in the water, if you will. So just by the magic of hydrodynamics, there's a lot of thruster wash that if you're just trying to go vertically up, that box gets in the way. So that's why we do a lot of lateraling when we're going up in the water column. So we actually get a vector that's more diagonal. So hydrodynamics also plays a big factor into it too.
yeah.
All right, got one Doppler beam, nice.
So as we go up, yeah, exactly what you said. You want the thrusters are working against us.